You never forget the sound of a prison siren. It is not just loud, it is a warning that something has gone terribly wrong. But on that night, as the siren wailed and the world outside fell apart, I realized the real danger was not just behind the bars. It was coming for all of us, and there was nowhere left to run. The first scream did not come from an inmate. It came from one of my own. I am Ray. I have worked as a correctional officer at Black Hollow Penitentiary for almost 7 years. I have seen riots, fights, and desperate escape attempts. But nothing prepared me for the night the world ended. It started like any other graveyard shift. The air was thick with the smell of bleach and sweat. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting long shadows down the empty corridors. I was making my rounds, boots echoing on the concrete, when my radio crackled to life. "We need you in Block C now." It was Officer Daniels. His voice was tight, strained. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. I pressed the button on my radio. On my way, I passed by the cells, nodding at the familiar faces behind the bars. Some of the inmates nodded back. Others just stared, eyes hollow, lost in their own worlds. I had learned not to judge. In here, everyone wore a mask. As I reached Block C, I heard it, a scream, sharp and raw, echoing off the concrete. It was not the sound of a fight. It was something else, something primal. I broke into a run, heart pounding. The door to Block C was ajar. I pushed it open and stepped inside. The scene was chaos. Officer Daniels was on the ground, clutching his arm. Blood pooled beneath him, dark and sticky. An inmate, Harris a lifer, was standing over him. Eyes wide, mouth smeared with red. I shouted, drawing my baton. Harris turned to me, lips pulled back in a snarl. For a moment, I thought he was going to attack. But then he staggered, clutching his head, and collapsed to the floor. Daniels gasped. He bit me. He just bit me. I knelt beside him, trying to stop the bleeding. My hands shook. I had seen fights before, but never anything like this. "Stay with me, Daniels. We need to get you to the infirmary." He nodded, teeth gritted in pain. I glanced at Harris. He was twitching on the floor, eyes rolling back. Something was very wrong. I pressed my radio again. "Medical emergency in Block C, officer down. Inmate down. We need help now." Static. No response. I tried again. Still nothing. The silence was deafening. I looked at Daniels. Sweat beaded on his forehead. His skin was pale, almost gray. "What is happening?" he whispered. I did not have an answer. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The siren blared louder than I had ever heard. Red emergency lights flashed, painting the walls in blood. I heard more screams, distant but growing closer. The sound of running footsteps, shouts, the metallic clang of cell doors. I helped Daniels to his feet, slinging his arm over my shoulder. We stumbled out of Block C into the chaos. The hallway was packed. Officers and inmates alike were running, pushing, shouting. I saw Officer Kim trying to hold back a group of panicked prisoners. "Ray, what is going on?" she yelled. "I do not know. Daniels is hurt. We need to get to the infirmary." Kim nodded, eyes wide with fear. "The radios are dead. Phones, too. It is like we are cut off." I looked around. The fear was contagious. The inmates sensed it. Some were banging on their cell doors, demanding answers. Others just watched, silent and waiting. We pushed through the crowd, making our way to the infirmary. The air was thick with panic. I could smell blood, sweat, and something else, something rotten. As we reached the infirmary, I saw Nurse Patel standing in the doorway, hands shaking. "Get in, quick," she called. "Dot." We rushed inside. Patel locked the door behind us. Daniels collapsed onto a cot, breathing hard. Patel started cleaning his wound, but I could see the bite was deep. The flesh was torn, already turning an ugly shade of purple. "What happened?" Patel asked, voice trembling. "He was bitten by an inmate, Harris. But it was not normal. He just snapped." Patel's eyes widened. "There have been other attacks. Inmates biting each other. Some of the staff, too. It is spreading." I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. Daniels groaned, clutching his arm. "It burns. Feels like fire." I tried to reassure him, but my words felt hollow. Suddenly, there was a loud bang on the door. Someone was pounding, desperate. "Let me in, please." I looked through the small window. It was Officer Miller. face streaked with blood. Patel hesitated. Should we open it? I glanced at Daniels, then at Patel. The pounding grew louder. What would you do in this situation? Trust a colleague or risk letting in something worse? I made my choice. I unlocked the door. Miller stumbled in, gasping for breath. They are turning. The inmates? Some of the staff. They are. Not human anymore. He slammed the door shut behind him, locking it tight. I looked at Daniels. His eyes were glassy, unfocused. Patel whispered, "We need to get out. Now." But outside, the screams were getting closer. The infected were coming, and we were trapped. As the siren wailed and fists pounded on the door, I realized the walls that once kept danger out were now keeping us in, and the real nightmare was just beginning. The first infected inmate slammed against the glass, and I realized no cell, no lock, no badge could save us now. The pounding on the infirmary door grew louder, more frantic. Each thud sent a jolt through my chest. I could hear muffled screams echoing down the hallways, blending with the wail of the siren. The world outside that door was unraveling, and we were running out of time. Officer Miller was shaking, his uniform torn and stained with blood. He kept glancing at the door, as if expecting it to burst open at any second. "They are everywhere," he whispered. I saw Johnson. He was bitten, and then he just changed, started attacking the others. It is like they do not feel pain. They just want to bite, to tear. Nurse Patel was trying to keep Daniels conscious, but his skin was turning a sickly gray. Sweat poured down his face. His breathing was shallow, ragged. I knelt beside him. "Daniels, stay with me. You are going to be okay." He looked at me, eyes unfocused. "Ray, if I change, do not let me hurt anyone. Promise me." I swallowed hard. "I promise." A heavy silence settled over the room. I could feel the weight of it pressing down on all of us. The infected were out there, but the real fear was starting to creep in from within these walls. Suddenly, the glass window in the infirmary door cracked. A pale, bloodied face slammed against it. An inmate, eyes wild, mouth snapping at the air. Behind him, more shapes pressed forward, clawing at the glass. Their hands smeared with blood. Miller backed away, voice trembling. "They are going to get in. We need to move." Patel shook her head. "Where? The halls are full of them. We are safer here." I looked around the room. There was a supply closet, a small window high on the wall, and a locked medicine cabinet. Not much to work with. I tried the radio again. Nothing but static. I forced myself to think. We cannot stay here. If they break through, we are trapped. We need a plan. Patel's hands were shaking as she packed a small bag with medical supplies. If we can get to the security office, we might be able to lock down the cell blocks. Maybe even call for help. Miller nodded, but his eyes were haunted. The security office is on the other side of the yard. We would have to go through the main corridor. Daniels groaned, clutching his arm. "Leave me. I am slowing you down." I shook my head. No one gets left behind. Not tonight. The pounding on the door grew louder. The glass was starting to splinter. I grabbed a metal 4-pole and handed it to Miller. We moved together. "Stay close." Patel helped Daniels. "We go on my count." Patel nodded, her face pale but determined. I took a deep breath, heart hammering in my chest. 3, 2, 1. I flung the door open. The infected inmate lunged at me, teeth bared. I swung the 4-pole, catching him in the chest. He staggered back, but did not fall. His eyes were empty, hungry. Miller shoved him aside, and we pushed into the hallway. The air was thick with the stench of blood and rot. The lights flickered, casting everything in a sickly red glow. We moved fast, hugging the walls. Inmates and staff, infected and uninfected, were fighting, screaming, running. I saw Officer Kim struggling with an infected prisoner, her baton swinging wildly. "Kim, this way." I shouted. She broke free and ran to us, face streaked with tears. "Ray, it is everywhere. The whole block is gone." We pressed on, dodging the chaos. I could hear the infected behind us, their footsteps pounding, their growls echoing off the walls. We reached the main corridor. The security office was at the far end, past a gauntlet of infected. The hallway was littered with bodies, some moving, some not. Patel was struggling to keep Daniels upright. He was fading fast. Miller looked at me, voice shaking. "We are not going to make it." I gritted my teeth. We have to try. We moved as one, pushing through the chaos. I swung my baton at anything that got too close. Kim covered our rear, her face set in grim determination. We were halfway down the corridor when Daniels collapsed. Patel screamed, trying to pull him up. "Ray, he is not breathing." I dropped to my knees, checking his pulse. Nothing. Suddenly, Daniel's eyes snapped open, but they were not his eyes anymore. They were empty, hungry. He lunged at Patel, teeth snapping. I grabbed him, wrestling him to the ground. "Get back!" I shouted Miller, and Kim pulled Patel away. I pinned Daniels, but he was strong, unnaturally strong. He thrashed, snarling, trying to bite. I looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of the man I knew. There was nothing left. I made my choice. With a heavy heart, I brought my baton down, ending it. Miller pulled her to her feet. "We have to go now." We ran, the infected closing in behind us. The security office was just ahead. I could hear the pounding of fists, the guttural growls, the screams of the dying. We reached the door. I fumbled with the keys, hands slick with sweat. The infected were almost on us. I shoved the door open, and we tumbled inside, slamming it shut behind us. For a moment, there was silence. I looked at my bloodied hands, my heart heavy with guilt. How do you keep order when the world has lost its mind? How do you decide who lives and who dies? Outside, the infected pounded on the door, hungry for blood. Inside, we were safe, for now, but I knew it would not last. As I stared at the security monitors, watching the infected swarm through the prison, I realized the real test was still to come, because on one of the screens, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Someone was opening the main cell block doors from the inside. On the security screen, I watched the cell doors slide open, one by one. Someone inside was making a choice, and it was about to cost us everything. The pounding on the security office door was relentless. Each blow rattled the glass, echoing through the cramped room. I could see the infected pressing against the reinforced window, their faces twisted with hunger, their hands smeared with blood. But it was not the monsters outside that scared me most. It was the betrayal I had just witnessed on the monitors. I stared at the screen, my breath caught in my throat. The main cell block doors were opening. Not all at once, but in sequence, someone was using the control panel from inside. I zoomed in, squinting at the grainy footage. There, in the shadows, was a figure in a guard's uniform. I recognized the limp. Officer Torres.Kim saw it too. Why would Torres do that? He is letting them out. He is letting everyone out. Miller shook his head, voice trembling. Maybe he thinks it is the only way. Maybe he is trying to give them a chance. Patel was silent, her eyes red from crying. She clutched the bag of medical supplies like a lifeline. I felt a surge of anger, then confusion. Was Torres trying to save the inmates? Or was he dooming us all? The infected were everywhere. Opening those doors would only spread the chaos. I turned to the others. We need to get to the main control room. If Torres opens the yard gates, the infected will flood the whole prison. We will not survive. Kim nodded, jaw set. We go together. I checked the security office for anything useful. There was a shotgun in the weapons locker. 2 shells left. I handed it to Kim. Miller grabbed a fire axe from the wall. I took a flashlight and my baton, slick with dried blood. Patel hesitated. What if we run into more of them? I looked her in the eyes. We keep moving. We do not stop. We stick together. The pounding on the door grew louder. The glass was starting to crack. I checked the monitors one last time. The infected were everywhere, swarming the hallways, tearing at the bars, chasing anything that moved. But there were still pockets of survivors. Guards, inmates, people who had not turned yet. I opened the emergency exit at the back of the office. The hallway beyond was dark, lit only by the flicker of dying lights. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and blood. We moved quickly, hugging the walls. Every shadow felt alive. Every sound made my heart race. As we passed the recreation room, I heard voices, real human voices. I peeked inside. A group of inmates had barricaded themselves behind overturned tables. One of them, a big man with a shaved head, saw me and called out, "Guard, you got a way out." I hesitated. These men were supposed to be my enemies, but tonight the lines were blurred. Kim whispered, We cannot help everyone. But I remembered Daniel's words, "Do not let me hurt anyone." I could not just walk away. I called back, "If you want to live, follow us. Stay close. No fighting." They grabbed makeshift weapons, chair legs, mop handles, and joined our group. We moved as one, a strange alliance of guards and prisoners. Survival had become the only law. As we neared the main control room, we heard gunshots. I pressed against the wall, peering around the corner. Torres was there, fumbling with the control panel. He was bleeding from a bite on his arm, sweat pouring down his face. He looked up, wild-eyed, as we approached. "Stay back," he shouted, waving his pistol. "I am letting them out. They deserve a chance. We all do." I stepped forward, hands raised. "Torres, listen to me. If you open those gates, you will kill everyone. The infected will flood the yard. No one will make it out." He shook his head, tears streaming down his face. "You do not know what it is like, Ray, to be locked up, forgotten. They are people. They are scared." I felt a pang of sympathy, but I could not let him do it. "Torres, you are bitten. You are not thinking straight. Please, let us help you." He hesitated, gun shaking in his hand. The infected were pounding on the doors behind him, drawn by the noise. Suddenly, one of the inmates lunged, tackling Torres to the ground. The gun went off, the shot echoing through the hallway. I rushed forward, grabbing the control panel. Torres was sobbing, clutching his bitten arm. I just wanted to do the right thing. I looked at him, my heart heavy. Sometimes there is no right thing, only survival. I locked down the gates, sealing off the yard. The infected slammed against the reinforced doors, howling in frustration. For a moment, there was silence. Then the fire alarm blared. Smoke was pouring in from the east wing. Someone had set a fire, maybe to stop the infected, maybe out of desperation. We were running out of time. I turned to the group. "We need to get to the roof. There is an emergency ladder. It is our only way out." We moved quickly, the smoke thickening around us. The infected were everywhere, drawn by the noise and the fire. We fought our way through, swinging weapons, dodging grasping hands. One by one, we climbed the ladder to the roof. The night air was cold, sharp with the smell of burning plastic and blood. From the roof, I could see the chaos below. The yard was filled with the infected, swarming like ants. The fire was spreading, lighting up the night. Kim looked at me, her face streaked with soot. "What now?" I stared out at the horizon. The world outside the prison was dark, silent, no sirens, no rescue. I realized then this was not just a prison outbreak. This was everywhere. Patel sat down, exhausted. The inmates huddled together, watching the flames. I looked at my bloodied hands, my uniform torn and stained. I had tried to keep order. I had tried to save lives on both sides of the bars. But in the end, the world had changed. The rules were gone. I turned to the group, my voice steady. We stick together. We watch each other's backs. We survive. That is all we can do. As the sun began to rise, painting the sky with blood and fire, I wondered, what would you do if you were trapped between justice and survival? Would you risk everything to save a stranger? Or would you lock the doors and pray for morning? The siren's echo faded into the dawn, and somewhere below, the infected kept pounding. We were free, for now. But the world beyond the walls was waiting, and I knew, deep down, that the real test was just beginning.